I grew up, my dad was in the Navy, so I'm originally from Michigan, but growing up with a parent in the military, I've traveled the world, grew up overseas actually. Most people don't know that. I grew up in Japan for
Where?
8 years, Kosuka, Japan. So more
Okay, I live in
southern.
New.
And then prior to Japan, I was in Hawaii. So just because of my diverse background, traveling and growing up, seeing so many parts of the world, I think that gave me an interest just in cultures in general outside of my own.
All right. Welcome back to La Rhetorica podcast. Today, I'm joined by the brilliant Dr. Wourman. Dr. Wourman is an assistant professor of English at Howard University, where she teaches a range of courses from technical writing, visual rhetoric, and design. Her research explores the ways culture and language shifts between communities, which is reflected in all modes of communication from print, digital, and multimedia. Prior to joining Howard, she worked at James Madison University. She developed and taught courses on cultural rhetoric, digital humanities, and technical communication, and was awarded the Provost Award for Excellence in Research and Scholarship. Dr. Wourman received her PhD from Michigan State University's Rhetoric and Writing program. Work has been featured in journals like Kairos, Technical Communication Quarterly, and the Journal of African American Studies. And her role on the NTTE's 4C's Black Technical and Professional Communication Task Force is literally changing the way we understand Black cultural practices in technical spaces. In this episode, we're going to dive into the journey, how she moved from graduate student mode to full-blown scholarly force. So let's get into it. Jayla, welcome to La Rhetorica. How you doing?
Thank you so much for having me.
I'm so
I'm good. Yes, thank you again for having me on this amazing platform that you have created.
Thank you. It's a work in progress. So tell us a little bit about you. Tell us who you are. What's on your mind? What are you up to these days?
All right. So you gave my academic background introduction, which was lovely. Thank you for reading that. A little bit about myself. So I'm a military brat. I grew up, my dad was in the Navy. So I'm originally from Michigan, but growing up with a parent in the military, I've traveled the world, grew up overseas actually. Most people don't know that. I grew up in Japan for
Where?
8 years, the Kosuka, Japan. So more
Okay, I live.
southern. Yeah. And then prior to Japan, I was in Hawaii. Just because of my diverse background, traveling and growing up, seeing so many parts of the world, I think that gave me an interest just in cultures in general outside of my own. But I've always loved writing, communicating, empowering people. Communications in general, I think was always something I just really was drawn to, like dynamic speakers and people who were able to move others with their words and language. That's like, I guess a little bit about like my journey and then background into like my interests. I think diving into how I chose this field.
Okay, awesome. So quick question. Do you speak Japanese?
I don't, and I wish I did.
Oh,
It's been so
yeah.
long since I've even been back to Japan.
So was your dad a Marine?
He was a Navy
And
naval officer.
do you speak Japanese?
Yes,
So how does
I know a few words.
we can get by, get to the bathroom, whatever, right? Awesome. So is there anything, what are you reading right now?
Okay, yeah, so I'm actually reading a few things. Of course, I'm reading, like, different articles. I'm doing some research right now on the Harlem Renaissance and looking at design work that emerged from that time. So I'm just, like, diving into a lot of, like, poems and also actual artwork. So that's been really cool, like, reading the art. There's also a book that I wanna dive into this summer, I haven't started it yet. It's called The Black Experience in Design. It's an anthology. I'm not sure if you've heard of it, but it's newer actually, and it's just like a bunch of different perspectives on Black design across the diaspora, which is something that's not really talked about too much. And then for personal reading, I'm reading a book that many people probably have heard of, Atomic Habits, best-selling book. So that's what I've been like trying to balance like personal reading and then like my academic reading.
Has it spoken to you? Have you had any revelations from Atomic Habits?
Oh, already, like, when you open that book, I think the first few pages, I'm like, "All right, it's gonna take me a minute to get through this book so I can digest it." The main thing so far I'm taking from Atomic Habits is to really embrace, like, that first step, the small
Mhm.
step, this because you don't see any results in whatever you're trying to work towards, whether it's, like, a goal or just a habit, like, anything in your life, right? And then the first few steps, it doesn't really seem like nothing's happening. And I'm just like embracing that. Oh my gosh, this is the most important step. The step where I
Totally.
don't see a result.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
So is there anything that we should be reading? Our audience, women in higher education, what should we be picking up?
Well, there is a new book that was just released, the Rutledge Social Justice and Technical Communication by Rutledge. I don't know if you saw that was just released.
I did. I believe it was Alicia Hatcher posted that she has a chapter in the
So
collection.
many amazing people have a chapter in
Yeah.
there. It is edited by phenomenal women. I know so many awesome people that are featured in there. I cannot wait to dive into that. I have not started it, but I want to get a copy so I can dive into it. Because social justice is not done.
And you know what? Yeah, so I'm gonna put a link in the show notes for that if you want to check that out. Awesome. Thank you so much. And what are you writing? What are you writing right now?
Yes, I mentioned I'm doing some research right now on just some like artwork and design in the Harlem Renaissance. So I'm actually working on a piece, an article that's going to be trying to develop and discuss what I believe is a framework for how we can better understand visual rhetorics that centers the Black experience. So, Black visual rhetorics. And what does that look like? What are some of the terminologies that we should be thinking about? What are some of the aesthetics of Black visual rhetorics? So, the article itself is going to focus on the Harlem Renaissance because a lot of the writers and artists back then were really actually talking about Black aesthetic. So I want to start there because this is a part of the bigger project for me. But I think this article is going to put it out there with this framework I'm developing so people can understand that Black art, Black design, Black visuals, like we have been talking about this for years. It's not so much written in our discipline, talked about specifically the Black approach to thinking about design. And I really want to tease that out.
Yeah, that's awesome. I just learned about the dandy at the Met Gala.
Yes, the dandy.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, so I learned about it because it was the theme of the Met Gala, and I was like, "Okay, this is so cool. It's such a visual Black form of expression. It's like living art."
Taylor, super
Yeah.
fine. Yes,
Yes,
I love.
I need to bring that back.
I was so happy when I saw that was the theme for the Met Gala and just them highlighting Black designers and tailors because, of course, during that time period, when a lot of Black designers and tailors were emerging and creating for us, they were, of course, not mainstream. So it's really nice that the Met did that.
Did you get to see the opening medley?
I
Did
did. I was sharing that on my socials with friends.
It was so good. Alright, so you transitioned from Michigan State University as a doctoral student to now you're at Howard University. How long have you been at Howard? Tell us a little bit about that transition.
So I didn't transition directly from Michigan State because, as you mentioned in the opening, I got my first job out of my doctoral program at James Madison University. So it's
Nice.
still close in Virginia, but more in the rural area of Virginia, closer to the capital, Richmond, in that area. So I took that job first, was there for 3 years, and then I got a new position at Howard. So I just wrapped up my first year now at Howard University.
Yeah, so what do you think shifted for you mentally, emotionally, professionally from the shift of going from Michigan State to then James Madison to now at Howard?
There's a lot that happens from going from grad student, specifically from doctoral student, and then going straight into your job if you are pursuing. a professor position, there's a lot of orienting of yourself that you have to do because you're no longer a student, you're faculty, and then you're also an expert in many ways. We don't feel like it because we just wrapped up this dissertation and it feels like you just were like getting to your expertise when your dissertation is done. It's only a small portion of this big conversation your dissertation can capture. And you only have so much time. So I feel like going from that mentality, and then if you're like me, you got a job. Like I had my job before my dissertation was even written. I knew I had a job. Thankfully, like I was so blessed. That's the way it lined up for me. So that mentality, I think, also played a role in shifting me knowing I was already going to be a professor before I had defended my dissertation. I had signed my contract already. So while I had to shift that mentality from student, it was already happening as I was finishing up my dissertation.
Do you feel like an expert? When did that happen? Does it happen when you defend? Does it happen? When does it happen?
I think there's moments that you feel like an expert, but for one, many of us, we would all agree we're always learners. We're always students, right? We're always learning. But I would say I felt like an expert. I really started to feel like that when I was with my colleagues writing the Black TPC resource guide for Cs. And when we started to share that work, doing like webinars and presenting our scholarship essays, and then co editing the special issue for Technical Communication Quarterly, I feel like that's when I was like, wow, yeah, I know what I'm
I
talking
mean,
about.
that's amazing. So talk to me a little bit about what kind of support and mentorship or community helped you make the transition from grad student to faculty.
Yes, so I had an amazing dissertation committee and mentors. So they played a vital role, which I think is why it's important that your dissertation chair, and not only your chair, but your additional committee members, and then readers, letters of recommendation, writers, and then maybe even spiritual mentors or other mentors outside of academia that supports you to help you. I think that is like your village, like that grounds you. So I had bits and pieces of mentors. I've always kept mentors since I was actually an undergrad. I really do believe in the value of a mentor. So I would say that my dissertation committee from that academic side really did help me with this transition, checking in on me and making sure I understood like certain milestones that would be important for me. Granted, my job also, there were mentors at James Madison when I first started, and even here at Howard, I had a mentor. So I would say that's good for you to have mentors at your job. But your committee, if you're transitioning from that grad student, those will be your first line of support because they know you so well. They've worked with you so closely. So making sure you harness that relationship. Don't think that relationship is just over, like just because you graduated. Like, no, like those relationships matter.
Is there anything as a student that you wish had been different, or do you feel pretty good about it? I mean, as you now transition to the other side of it, and you're now in the role of mentor and supporting
Mm.
students. Is there anything you're trying to do differently?
There's a few things that come to mind when you ask that question. In terms of the program I was a part of, because I had such a special interest in looking at Black language, rhetoric, design, when I was coming from a professional writing background already before I came to my PhD program. But once I got there, I knew I wanted to continue studying African Americans and thinking about our approaches to whether it's design technology. That was my area. And because there were not many, there were maybe one or two in my program that had that kind of background or expertise. I actually had to go outside of my department and I had to find some mentors and I had to just really read on my own, study on my own, connect with the Black Studies department. And that's how I became affiliated with Black Studies. And now I like publish in Black Study journals and do some of that research as well because I had to see where can I find this information that I'm not really getting in my program that will allow me to do this research. So that I think that makes me aware that sometimes I don't have all the answers as a mentor now, right? So encouraging my students that I might mentor that it is okay if you are going out and seeking additional help. There's the expectation as a mentor is not that you have all the answers. So I was lucky enough that I was encouraged as a student to do that, and that really did help me.
It's interesting because what I was thinking was, wow, as a student, you had to be really self-motivated to go and seek the mentorship that you needed. Would you say that's true?
I definitely had to be self-motivated because on the flip side, there was a lot of peers that were looking for more of that support within our community, our department, or maybe the classes that they were taking, and were still feeling like maybe they didn't have all of that. So it's important to be self-motivated. I think that's something else I would say, like to be self-motivated. That's something though that was pushed, instilled in me, I would say from my family. Cause that's not just something I'm born with. I don't think we're not just born like that. That's something that's cultivated over time. But I would encourage people, like, if you're going to be in a professional degree seeking program, many times you have to be self-motivated because there's gonna be times you don't wanna do it anyway. So outside of that research part that I've been talking about, to complete a degree of that nature, whether it is a PhD, a master's, you have to be self-motivated at this point in time because most of us are adults at this point in time.
Yeah, I think we all know, like, once you're done with coursework, you have to be self-motivated and structured to get to finish. But I don't know that a lot of us are thinking about, oh, I have to be self-motivated to find my own peer or like group or support.
Yeah.
And I'm curious too about, okay, so at what point do we encourage students to be self-motivated and seek what they need perhaps outside of the department? And at what point do we reflect as a department and say, hey, why are we not meeting the needs of students within the department?
Yeah. Ooh, that's loaded. Because you just touched on an issue, that second part. In terms of for the departments, I think that has a lot to do with recruitment and retention
Mhm.
because you have to look at your institution type. And I was at Michigan State University, which is a very large PWI, so the largest university in Michigan, but it's predominantly white. So your department needs to also look at the needs of the students that are being recruited, those research areas. And granted, the research areas typically are going to be supported because you're not going to be recruited if like the professors can't support that. But a lot of times, I believe that these departments are not really thinking about holistically, like you're mentioning, the needs of the student outside of coursework, outside of some of their readings. We need community. We need other types of support and mentorship. So it does fall back on a lot of those departments to make sure they're thinking about that. And then to your other point, I think we need to be telling our students that early on that they need to be seeking various forms of support and mentorship, not just within the department. I had professors who were telling me that because when I was transitioning, I have a unique journey, I would say, because my master's program, and I got my master's at my alma mater, Eastern Michigan University. And prior to that, I had a lot of professors who actually knew professors at Michigan State. So they knew people either working there, people who were leadership in the program I was interested in. So there was already that community. They were already giving me like some guidance, like, okay, this is someone that you probably want to talk to. This is probably somebody that's going to help you. Me, I'm soaking everything in. All right. Cause I didn't really know nothing prior to my starting my PhD. Like my master's program is when I really started to learn about research, to be honest. That's when I really, so I was just soaking every piece of information in. And I asked so many questions, like, because I felt behind. I was like, there's some
Mhm.
people who knew they wanted to get a PhD, and that wasn't me. So I think when we're talking about self motivation, you have to understand where I was coming from. I felt like I was behind, when in reality, I wasn't. I just had a different path. I
Mhm.
just had taken a different journey. So because that networking was happening. Once I got to Michigan State, I hit the ball running. That's where the self-motivation started. Nobody had to tell me, "This is who you probably should talk to," because people were already telling me, like, "Okay, there's not that many people maybe who are doing what you're doing, but these are people I would suggest that you connect with." So then I set up meetings, and I became president of our graduate student organization. So I'm like, I'm that girl who in grade school was a part of student council. So no surprise. No surprise in my doctoral
So
program.
you've been that girl.
I would tell people when I became a mentor as a student as well, I was like, your first year, y'all can set up meetings. We are encouraged to do this, but I think some people are still hesitant to do this. Like even going to office hours as an undergrad, meeting with your professor, taking that initiative is a little bit scary. If you don't really know them, you feel apprehensive. We were encouraged to set up like coffee meetings with potential professors that you're interested to work with. I'm not sure how soon people did that. I know I personally did it in my first semester. I did it because I didn't want to wait until the end of my second year to be asking people to be on my committee. I wanted to have formed relationships with enough people. I wanted them to know me. And even if they weren't on my committee, that was a relationship. So I think that's important. We don't think about transaction. We think about relationship building. That's how you actually find who's going to be a good fit, who's going to be a good mentor.
Yeah, I just love how proactive you are, and that's something I had to discover for myself throughout my doctoral program. Advocating for myself, being proactive, and seeking those mentorships. I think part of me wants to gripe on faculty should or the department should, but I really think as and transitioning into a faculty position, you realize like, wow, there's so much going on. What would be your advice you would give to a new graduate student who's maybe struggling to claim space in academia, who's feels like maybe their identity is marginalized or overlooked? What would be your great advice?
I would say, in addition to seeking out professors outside the department or within, find organizations also on
Mhm,
campus. I think we underestimate when we're in graduate school the role of extracurricular. We think that's just undergrad, but I was also a part of our Black Graduate Student Association. I was a member because I needed that community of peers. So now we're not talking about that professor student mentor. Who are your peers outside of your cohort, right?
mhm.
So, like, who are people across campus on that same journey as you? You're going to form so much connections just through that. So I joined that. I'm trying to think what else. I was a part of spiritual groups. So just so I could have that grounding and keep my faith up throughout my PhD journey. So I think we need to realize that even though you're getting your graduate degree, it's not just about getting the degree and I only have to focus on this in my home life. You have to think about what are the things that are going to enrich me and keep me grounded. So your total well-being. I always tell people like you have to think about the whole person. How are you making sure you're being taken care of within your program? Because it's so easy to get caught up. I probably did this too. Like my first year, you're grinding in that first year. So you're most of the time you're just focusing on your schools and then I realized, no, I need to like make sure I'm a part of some organizations on campus, continuing to do things I love, community service, like making sure I'm carving out time for the stuff I did and the person I was prior to this program. Like that person still exists.
I love that you said beyond the cohort because when I think about it, really, I don't think I had a press campus, a community outside of my cohort, really, of peers. I already lived in the area where I began my doctorate.
Mm,
So I didn't have to move. So I already had a church community. I already had
nice.
neighbors, friends. And so I didn't feel the need to pursue community outside of my cohort. But, if you're moving for a doctorate program, you don't have that already preset community like I
Yeah. I was already living in Michigan. So I was just moving from one city, Ypsilanti, to East Lansing. That was a whole different culture, whole different community. I never had lived in Lansing. My family is from Detroit, so I had tons of friends and family in the Detroit and the surrounding areas. So East Lansing and Lansing was also a change for me. But, that cross-campus community of peers actually was one of the best things I could have done. I met people at different stages of their PhD in different programs. I got to learn about, like, what's their journey like? What tips do you have? It was so helpful for me to get insight from other people. I actually made friends, ended up doing research with other peers in the Black Studies program at Michigan State. We ended up publishing an article together, presenting at a conference. And these are just from making these cross campus connections through organizations. For me, it was the BGSA. And for someone else, it could be, a group for LGBTQ, it could be for Black women, it could be whatever. There's so many identity groups on campus, even as a graduate student. So that's how I form community.
Well, we're getting a little bit close to our time, but I really want to hear about, you talked about being at Michigan State, which is a PWI, and then now you're at Howard, which is an HBCU,
Hate you?
and yeah, and I'm curious about like, how do you move differently within those different spaces?
Man, this transition to Howard has been beautiful. Like,
You're glowing, girl.
moving from a PWI as a Black person who's never attended an HBCU, like my education was at predominantly white institutions. I got my degrees. Like, so to be able to be in this space, it's actually like a kind of freedom I didn't know I needed. I would say that
Mm,
because it's not like my education was bad. It's not like I had horrible experiences, like those were the spaces I was in. So that is how I learned how to navigate being one of few Black people in a room at a institution where we are the majority. It's international, but we're the majority to be in a classroom where majority of my students are Black, to be working in a department where a majority of my colleagues are Black. I just feel so much more authentic. I feel authentic in how I move, how I show up. I don't have to think too much about those things. Like, I don't have to think about the choices I'm making, if someone's gonna comment on my hair or, me wearing hoop earrings or my outfit for the day or the way I present my classroom materials, the way I teach. Like, those things have been the same, but I feel like I was more conscious about it when I would
mm,
enter into the spaces. That's the biggest thing I would say, like the transition, me as a person, my embodied experience. I immediately, like within the first week, I immediately noticed the shift in how I felt in my body.
oh, wow, wow, that's so powerful. Yeah, I mean, we talked a lot about enclaves and the importance of enclaves, and wow, I mean, how has that affected you professionally? I mean, it just sounds like it has had such a big impact on you. I just want to hear a little
Yeah.
bit more about it.
And I want to say it's also affected my research. So, like, my research has been the same, but I feel like it's given me more insight to be surrounded by such brilliant scholars and to be on such a historic campus like Howard, and then being in the English department with and knowing the legacy and the history of the English department and who has been on campus and just all the prolific writers. I have felt more empowered and inspired to do research and really push the grains of our discipline and really go all in, be more imaginative and be more creative and not worry so much. Because, we're always told, especially in writing studies, rhetoric, composition, this has been left out. So this is why I'm saying this. So I already understood that about our field, but I would say now I approach the research like it's not that I don't do the research because it's been left out. I do it because it has to be said because this has been a part of a literary tradition. So I'm doing this because it has to be told. the story has to be told. I just feel more inspired to do that work. It's not because I'm trying to speak to a white audience and let
Mhm.
them know about, you know, what's been left out in the field. That's not the way I'm thinking about my research now. Like the way I'm thinking, it sounds like complex and I'm trying to articulate it.
Oh, I get it.
You get what I'm saying? It's like
I
my approach to research is so different now. I'm being introduced to a lot more literary artists and writers, learning about a lot more because I'm surrounded by such a very diverse group of scholars here at Howard. So they've been opening my eyes to different approaches of how I can speak to my research and incorporate new readings and new works of art that I don't think I would have been as exposed to or thought of this approach. Like I told you, I'm writing about the Harlem Renaissance. I've been talking about Black visual rhetoric for a while, but I hadn't really dove into the Harlem Renaissance and these different time periods. This past semester was the first semester where I taught a course at Howard specifically on African American visual rhetoric and African American rhetoric centering on these time periods. And it was so nice that I got to design this course centered on the Black experience.
Yeah, wow. I mean, you're such a powerhouse, girl. This is
Uh,
amazing.
Thank you. And I feel like I'm just getting started.
Yes, I'm on the post, I'm on the post.
Yeah. I'm also just reminded every new stage and every new season, you're doing so much more learning. Going back to your question, like when do you become an expert? Man, I just feel like you're always learning. And once you know something, yeah, you might call yourself an expert, but then you're going to realize there's still so much more I don't know. So don't be shy to feel like you do know what you know because you know what you know.
Mhm.
But also, you have to be so open to realize there's so much I don't know. Once I learn so much, oh man, there's so much more, you know? And that's the exciting part, I think, about being a scholar, about being in our field. If you can be humble enough, that is actually an exciting part of the journey.
I think I'm grown to be more humble just in life. I remember being 21 thinking I knew everything. And then you look back and you're like, girl, you didn't know anything.
Right. You
Like,
knew you knew something, but you didn't know too much.
so I'm like, well, now I know quite a bit now, but I'm sure in 10 years
Yeah.
there's so much more. So as we close out, ask you just some basic questions I ask everybody. So what's grinding your gears this week?
What is grinding my gears this week? What is grinding this political climate, I think, has been grinding my gears, but actually this week, in these past few weeks, I just made a, a decision to just like tune it out so I can
Mhm.
enjoy time with my family, time with my cohort of scholars in the fellowship program. So while that could be grinding my gears, I tuned out a lot of that noise. I know there's so much going on though. Like I am aware,
I mean, that's what you gotta do sometimes. You just gotta turn it off.
but
I think a lot of that. I just put a lot
I
of that.
definitely I definitely had to tune it out because I was like, "Not right now. I need some me time."
Yes, and that's the perfect answer. My next question is what's bringing you joy this week?
Yeah, so I'm actually celebrating my cousins in Michigan, their high school graduation, so I got some family time. I get to celebrate with them, and then although I am doing research this summer, I'm taking me a little vacation, so this upcoming week, I'll be taking some me time and going on a nice beach vacation.
Yes, I'm excited for you. You can lay
Thank
on the
you.
bed and just relax.
That's all I really wanna do.
And you deserve it. You deserve it. So how can people reach you if they want to know more about you, want to know more about your work?
Yeah, so I'm on Instagram, I'm on LinkedIn, Dr. J Wourman, DrJWourman. And then my website is jaylawourman.com.
All right, awesome. And that'll be in the show notes as well. Thank you so much, Dr. Jalen Warren, for joining us.
Yes.
Such a pleasure having you. And I hope to have you back again because I feel like there's so much
Yes.
to share. Thank you so much.
Hopefully by that point, my article will be out and some other new stuff will be on the horizon.
I know it will. I know it will. All right. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right.